make sure you're all going to have access to this recording, and you're all going to have the scripts that we reviewed today. We're going to send those out to each and every one of you that registered for the training today. So that's a gift from us. So just to continue. So I started back 22 years ago, and I literally remember sitting in a neighborhood and just holding onto my steering wheel. And what I realized slowly and surely was my fear really came from not knowing how to talk to people. That was really the basis of my fear, right? I really didn't know how to talk to people, and I didn't feel confident in business. And so that's what was preventing me from going out there and talking to people. So what I learned very quickly, and by the way, everything that I teach here are from lessons that I've learned and things that I've implemented in my own business back in the day, before I became a coach and a manager for real estate. So for the past 12 years, I've just been managing for real estate companies. I managed for Keller Williams, I've managed for Coldwell Banker, and I've managed for Compass. I just stepped down in November from Compass Beverly Hills in Hollywood. So I have a lot of experience with different companies and different agents. And I find that we all have the same exact things that hold us back, right? We all have limiting beliefs that we have that hold us back. And what I had was I had a lot of limiting beliefs, right? I had a lot of limiting beliefs about what door knocking was, and that I was a smarmy salesperson if I was door knocking. I don't know if any of you felt like this before. I felt like that I didn't want to be a salesperson, right? And what happened was when I quickly shifted the way I was thinking, and it happened very quickly, right? What happened was I shifted the way I was thinking from, I don't want to be here, I don't want to bother people, I don't want to be a salesperson, into, after about 6 months, what I started to realize was there was a lot of bad realtors out there. And I know we all have experience with bad realtors that we've had in the past. And what my shift in my thinking was if I'm not out there talking to these people and working with them, then they're going to end up with a really bad realtor. And that vaulted me into action, right? That's what really got me to change the way I was looking at things. And one of the things I invite you all to think about is when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change. So as soon as I shifted my thinking, it gave me the absolute power to go out there and talk to people and communicate with them and come from a great place, right? So we are at 11:02. Just welcome to everybody who's joining right now. We're going to get started with the PowerPoint at 11:05. I'm just giving you guys a little bit of background on my experience as a realtor and a little bit about where we're at right now in this market, right? So one of the things that I want to share with you guys, one of the most important things that I want to share with you today is right now, door knocking is probably the most powerful medium in order to talk to people. I would say not probably, door knocking is the most powerful medium in order to talk to people. And what you'll see out there and what I'm experiencing, because I've coached a lot of agents over the past 20 years, I've worked with a lot of agents that I still connect with. What they're sharing with me right now, what they're sharing with me is that they can't even get away from people. People are so hungry for communication, right? People are so hungry for connection that they can't even get away from them, which is a good thing, right? But they just want to talk to them. They want to invite them in to see the home. They want to engage in conversations. So right now, door knocking happens to be the best way to build a business. And now I'm going to get started on the recording. I mean, the recording's already happened. I'm going to get started on the PowerPoint. Bear with me. Let me share the screen so we can get started. Here we go. So, just so you guys know, I have a program called 90 Days to Real Momentum. You know, I created a 90-day coaching program because from my experience, I've coached a lot of people one-on-one. I've worked with agents from all across the board. When agents are in a program for 90 days, that's when they build the right habits. You know, there's so many things that distract us along the way that take us off of what we're intending to do in real estate. And so the reason I created a 90-day immersive program was so that I would be there every step of the way to support agents in doing the things they need to do in order to build the business that they want to build. So this is just one of the trainings. We have a 90-day program. We have 2 live trainings every week, and door knocking happens to be one of the trainings that we do. So I'm not going to talk a lot about the company today. I'm going to focus only on door knocking and the value of door knocking. But I want to share with you, I have a company called Real Momentum. We have one program called 90 Days to Real Momentum. And what I believe is that when agents are there supporting each other, there's so much power in that, right? There's so much power in collaboration. There's so much power in being able to look at other people and say, hey, if they're doing it, I can do it as well, right? And that's what happens in the program. And we're seeing a lot of magic happening in our program based on the fact that everybody's collaborating together and supporting each other. All right, so let's get started. The agenda for today. So first thing we do is go over the agenda. Why do we door knock? How to door knock? The conversations you should be having, things that you should potentially be leaving behind when you're door knocking, rapport building questions, scripts, which we're going to go over and share with you, and some action steps that you can take. So these are the ground rules for our training. One of the ones I want you to look at is there is no, in coaching, in training, there's no failure, right? A lot of times we look at what we're doing and we look at ourselves and we always want to grade ourselves or say we're not doing enough and beat ourselves up. We do a lot of self-sabotage and a lot of beating ourselves up. And I know that more than anybody because I used to do it all the time. In coaching, there is no failure. There's only feedback. So why door knock for lead generation? So the number one thing, one of my favorite quotes I like to say is, you can't stop a door knocker from taking over a neighborhood. I want you guys to hear that. You literally, somebody who's willing to go and consistently door knock and consistently talk to people in a neighborhood is always going to be able to take market share in that neighborhood. That's a powerful thing. Now, I just saw an article today that came out. NAR, for the first time in God knows how many years, membership is going down. Right? Which is expected, right? This is a time where a lot of people are going to get out of real estate, and the ones that are proactive are the ones that are going to succeed at the highest levels. And door knocking happens to be one of the most proactive ways of going out there and building a business because you're building it with sellers, guys. Yeah, we can sit open houses, we can potentially talk to people through referrals, but we don't control who we're talking to. When we're talking to a farm, we're talking to people that are sellers, that are homeowners, right? And we're specifically focusing on building our sphere, building our database with sellers. That's the goal. It's the easiest way to meet new people face-to-face quickly, right? Door knocking happens to be the easiest way to go out there and meet people face-to-face and build rapport. Now, why do we door knock, right? For immediate business and for future business. And we're going to talk in a second about the different types of door knocking that we can do. But we are looking for anybody that's thinking about selling, buying, or investing, right? There's three different things. And as a lead generator myself, I learned a lot about commercial real estate because every time I talk to people, sometimes they'd be like, we don't want to sell our house, but we got this apartment building we want to sell, right? And so I became really well-versed in commercial real estate as well. And we're building rapport with people so that we can get their future business. And we're going to talk about some scripts you can use to really instantaneously find out what it's going to take for you to be their realtor when they do decide to sell. So we got the potential to look for buyers, sellers, and investors. Also maximize your potential on most likely to sell, right? I know Fidelity, you know, Brandon was my title rep for everybody here to know, like Brandon was my title rep. And he helped me a lot with my business when I was growing it by supporting me in my lead generation. So Fidelity has a most likely to sell that's algorithm that's attached to their farms, right? So you literally can just get most likely to sell directly out of the Fidelity farms. So how do you maximize your potential on a most likely to sell? It's not, by the way, it's not by going to their door and going, hey, by the way, you came up as my most likely to sell. I was just wondering if you're thinking about selling. No, that's not how you do it. But when you're door knocking a neighborhood, does it benefit if you have algorithms that kick you out the most likely to sell in those neighborhoods? Absolutely it does, because you can literally door knock those people, talk about sales in the neighborhood, and your target specific focusing on people who are more likely to sell, maximizing your return on your investment, right? So door knocking works if you have the right conversations and you role play your conversations, and they're really simple ones. We tend to not engage in practicing our conversations. So what ends up happening is what? We attach our failure to door knocking. So we go out there, we say, oh, we should try door knocking. We should talk to some people, but we never learn our conversations. And so we don't yield results from it. And so we attach that failure to door knocking. And what I want you guys all to hear right now is door knocking has been working as long as real estate has been around, right? Door knocking has worked. Calling people has worked as long as real estate has been around. It's just a matter of mastering your conversations with people. So as our lives become more digital, people are so much more appreciative of face-to-face communication. That's why door knocking becomes the most powerful medium in the time that we're in. And in the time that we're in, when there's a lot of doubt about real estate, a lot of questions about real estate, there's nothing like being able to go to somebody's door and being able to talk to them about real estate, right? A lot of times they have misconceptions based on things they've heard about the market right now, or their cousin or some other person, telling them about real estate, right? They may have misconceptions about it. And by asking questions, we can easily find out what those are and set appointments with them and help them with their needs. So face-to-face rapport is always so much better than over the phone. When you're looking somebody in the eye, it's so much easier to build rapport. After COVID, everyone wants the opportunity to connect with people. So how do you door knock? This is one of the most important things, and it's a really simple technique that I'm going to teach you guys right now. So first thing you do when you go to a door, right, is you knock on the door and you take one step back. And then you mirror and match. So what is mirroring and matching? I have to take one step back. I need to teach you guys one thing, or share with you one thing. See, people go for appointments all the time. It's the biggest mistake that's made in lead generation is we're looking for appointments. And the thing that you should be looking for is rapport. Rapport is what gets you in the door. Rapport is what gets you the appointment. People will only work with you when you have rapport with them. So if you get the listing over somebody else, it's usually because you have more rapport with them than that other person. Rapport is everything. Number one way of building rapport, there's two. It's mirroring and matching, and then repeating and affirming what somebody says. And I'm going to show you this later on when I role play some scripts, really simply for you guys. But it's mirror and matching, repeating and affirming. So if I knock on Brandon's door and he opens up the door, I can probably expect one of two things to happen. He's either going to come out with his hands folded, right? Which is what most people do, or on his hips maybe, right? But if he comes out with his arms folded, I'm going to fold my arms. I'm literally going to mirror and match Brandon. That's how I build rapport with him, right? I'm going to mirror and match, and then I'm going to ask him some questions, and we'll get into the questions in the scripts. And then I'm going to repeat and affirm what he says simply and easily. Why? Because people want to be heard. And I'll teach you in the scripts, you can even negate what somebody says. As long as you repeat and affirm it, they feel heard. So you can repeat and affirm somebody says and go down a different path. They just want to feel heard. And that comes from repeating and affirming what they said. So if I ask Brandon, how long you been at this address? And he says, oh yeah, we've been here for 5 years. I'm going to say 5 years. That's fantastic. That's simple. Just repeat and affirm. Connect to the person and pick something to focus on, right? So we're going to talk about this a little bit because there's beautiful door knocking farm books. Fidelity, I know, has them. Other companies have them as well, that you can literally take when you go door knocking and take notes on it, right? And so how powerful is it if you can reference somebody's house with the green trim, or their dog named Cookie, right? Or their kids about to go to college, whatever it may be. that's something that you can really connect to somebody on, right? Connect to somebody with by focusing on those things. So we want to find out something that we can focus on, find valuable information to connect with people about. Put it in the database as a note you can reference when following up with them again, right? So a couple of things I want to share with you guys. If you're going to go door knocking, and if we're going to talk about a farm, I would say no more than somewhere between 250 and 500 for a door knocking farm. And I'll tell you why. You want to be able to reach those people once every 3 months, right? Or at the most once every 6 months, but you definitely want to hit the same homes again. So you can request a walking farm book from the title companies. So types of conversations we want to have when we're door knocking. Let me give you a few examples. So just listed, potential buyer moving into the neighborhood, right? This was one of my favorite door knocking scripts or calling scripts, is giving somebody an opportunity to pick their new neighbor. Now, I'm going to share with you, when you go door knocking and you start talking to somebody, or you knock on the door and somebody wants to be resistant, because that's how it happens, right? They're immediately resistant because they have a natural resistance to what? Salespeople. We all have a natural resistance to salespeople, right? So they want to be resistant. But when you go, hey, I just want to give you an opportunity to pick your new neighbor, that resistance goes away quickly. And then you can engage in a real conversation. So if I'm going to Brandon's door, I'm going to say, hey, Brandon, we just listed a home in your neighborhood, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. And I know that the neighbors always know somebody who wants to move into the neighborhood. Who do you know wants to move into the neighborhood? Right? That's a wonderful door knocking conversation. Around the sale, price per square foot. So guys, I like to calculate price per square foot when I'm doing numbers for door knocking, and I'll tell you why. When you're door knocking, if you have let's say it's $1,000 a square foot, usually people know the square footage of their home or the approximate square footage of their home. So what does that do? They're immediately going to calculate what the value of their home is in their head. So if you want to have fruitful conversations with people, you should focus on price per square foot. So what's the price per square foot? That way they're going to immediately calculate what their property is worth. Market statistics, right? So guys, we can create any market statistic. We can skew market statistics to show anything we want it to show. You can put out quarterly market reports. You can put out statistics as to why there's no inventory right now, right? If you're talking to sellers, I would make the statistics about the fact that there's no inventory, because that maximizes their potential profit. So another conversation you can have, one of the most powerful conversations right now is a multiple offer scenario. If I'm knocking on Brandon's door and I say, hey, Brandon, man, we just sold your neighbor's home over 123 Main Street, and there's still 5 buyers looking in your neighborhood who didn't get that property because it's sold in multiples. There's a powerful conversation. Have you had any thoughts about selling? There's 5 active buyers looking in your neighborhood right now just off of that property. Multiple offer scenario is a really powerful door knocking tool. And then here's another one, right? If you have a specific buyer who's looking in a neighborhood, which happens, right? It's the perfect opportunity to go door knock that neighborhood. So one of 2 things is going to happen. Either that property will be right for your buyer, and 9 times out of 10, it probably won't be, or you have somebody who wants to list their property, right? If they're willing to sell to your buyer, then they're willing to sell. That's the whole point. So now you know somebody who wants to sell. So you're either going to find a property for your buyer or you're going to potentially list the property. So here are all different types of conversations that we can have when we go door knocking. Now, what else can we door knock around? You can door knock expired specifically, right? You can door knock for sale by owners. You can door knock distressed properties, right? We're going to see a lot more distressed properties coming up. There's so many different scenarios. We can create whatever statistics we want in order to door knock, right? leave them something of value, right? So one of the things we want to do is always be able to leave behind something of value when we go door knocking. So comps for most recent sales with price per square foot, right? Remember I said price per square foot, that way they can calculate how much their property is worth. What other things can we leave behind? A quarterly marketing report for the neighborhood. One of my favorite ways of getting clients was if I took a listing, I knew I could turn it into 2 or 3 other listings, especially by door knocking around the open house. I would invite people to a special preview open house. So let's say the open houses are 2 to 5, then from 1 to 2, the first open house, I'm going to hold a preview for all the neighbors. Because listen, guys, they're going to come in and interview you one way or the other if they're interested in selling. I mean, how many people here have had open houses where the neighbors come in? It's almost inevitable that the neighbors are going to come in and interview you if they're thinking about selling their home. They're going to see how you sit your open house. So rather than be surprised, let's control that and invite them to a special preview open house, right? It's also a wonderful way of door knocking the neighbors because once again, the resistance goes away. The second you go, I want to invite you to an open house, that resistance goes away. And now you can engage in a fruitful conversation. So you can do that for your own listing. You can do it for a listing that's not yours. You can absolutely door knock around a listing that's not yours and invite people to an open house. You can hold a shredding event in the neighborhood. You can hold a community garage sale. I have a lot of agents who do shredding events in the neighborhood. I used to do a community garage sale. So there's all different sorts of events that you can coordinate as well. Okay. Now let's talk about the questions that build the rapport. Just see what time it is, make sure we're on time. Perfect. The questions that build the rapport. Oop. That's not what I meant to do. There we go. So door knocking scripts. Let me open door knocking scripts up for you guys. Okay, so here's a few sample door knocking scripts. By the way, like I said, we'll be sharing with you guys the recorded video and we'll be sharing with you the door knocking scripts. So you should all get a copy of this. So multiple offer scenario. We talked about that, right? So I'm stopping by to let you know your neighbor's home sold with multiple offers. That means there's still 5 buyers actively looking in your neighborhood. And I was curious, have you had any thoughts about selling at this time? Now, I want you guys to hear what I'm saying to you. The answer is always going to be no. That's the beginning of our conversation. You have to expect no as the answer, which is the beginning of the conversation. That's where you move into rapport building, right? So have you had any thoughts about selling at this time? No. Great. Okay. I appreciate that. How long have you lived here, by the way, Brandon? Right? That's going to engage rapport building. When I'm marrying and matching and I'm looking to build rapport by asking, how long have you lived here? Where'd you move from? How'd you happen to pick this area? Those are rapport building questions. And if I built rapport in those questions, when I get to that last question, let me ask you this, Brandon, if you were to move, where would you go next? Then if Brandon has had any thoughts about moving, that's when he'll actually engage and open up to me. You should expect a no at the beginning of the conversation. That should engage you into asking questions and digging deeper, which is where the rapport is built, right? And the last thing that I'm going to do before I leave any property, right? I'm going to say, if you look at the bottom here, thanks so much. What's it going to take for me to be your realtor when you do decide to sell your home? That question right there is the most powerful question I ever learned in real estate, because I'm going to find out exactly what that seller's objection to working with me will be up front. Oh, I have a cousin who's in real estate, or they'll say, you have to stay in touch with me, right? Which is what I'm looking for, because then I'm going to get their email address, right? And by the way, you probably have this already because we can get farms with phone numbers and email addresses. I want to get their permission to stay in touch with them. I want to get their email address from them and get their permission. So I'm going to say, Brandon, what's it going to take from me to be your realtor when you do decide to sell your home? And Brandon's going to say, stay in touch, right? And I'm going to say, great, I'd love to stay in touch. Let me get your email address, Brandon. I'll send you something once every month, and I'll check in with you once every 3 months to see what real estate needs you have. That's simple. Okay. Here's some more door knocking dialogue. No homes for sale, right? We know there's no inventory right now. I'm representing some clients who want to live in your neighborhood. There's no homes for sale. Do you happen to know anybody who's thought about selling? No. How about yourself? Have you considered making a move? No. Expect the no. The magic happens, guys, when you build rapport in these questions, when you mirror and match and build rapport and ask them about themselves and allow them to talk about themselves, that's where the magic happens, right? Another door knocking script. We talked about this earlier, right? I want to give you an opportunity to pick your new neighbor. Who do you know wants to move in the neighborhood? Now, notice if you look at this script, when I say to somebody, who do you know that wants to move into the area? The answer is going to be nobody. When I ask specific questions, that's when I could get a potential answer, right? So when the answer is no, then you want to say more specific questions like, hey, Brandon, do you know anybody from work or family? Maybe, Brandon, you know friends who have visited that love this neighborhood that want to move here, right? And I keep using his name because I'm building rapport. And then I'm going to say, I appreciate you taking time to think about it. Tell me, what real estate needs do you have at this time? Now, I happen to love this new question that we started adding at Real Momentum. We started adding this about a month ago into our conversations, and our agents have gotten some tremendous results about it. Now, why is that? Because somebody may not be thinking about selling their place, but they may have another real estate need, right? Somebody may not be thinking about selling, and yet they may be thinking about buying. You know, are we moving into a phase of the market that will be good for investors? Yes, we are. And you should all be thinking about activating your investors and talking to people about potentially being able to invest in the real estate market, right? Okay, let's go back to our slide. So the rapport building questions, once again, how long have you lived here? Where did you move from? How'd you happen to pick this area? And if you were to move now, where would you go next? You guys need to come from curiosity, really care about the client, really care about finding out. Like I always am interested in knowing where people move from, why they pick the neighborhood. I come from a place of curiosity, and that's what builds rapport very quickly and easily. Okay, multiple offer script. 5 buyers still looking in your neighborhood, right? So the answer is always going to be no. And you're always going to look to build rapport. And then the last question that I'm always going to ask before I leave the door is, hey, Brandon, what's it going to take for me to be a realtor when you do decide to sell your home? And that's going to give me all the information that I need to build out that farm, right? To stay in communication with people, to send them a thank you card. One of the things that I always did, by the way, just as a aside for you guys, is I send 5 thank you note cards out every day. So when you're talking to people consistently, it's really good to be able to send them out a note card, because the note card is personal and that separates you from other people. So one of the things that I want to share with you guys is, let's talk a little bit about the numbers of lead generation, right? So if I'm looking to break into a farm area, I'm just going to use a farm right now. Let's say Los Feliz. If I'm looking to break into Los Feliz as a farm area, right? Then I need to start to know how many people do I need to talk to in order to get the business that I want to get. And so your number should look like, for every 100 people you talk to in a farm area, you get 1 deal. So what does that mean? So now I can break it down, right? If I'm talking to 25, so 100 people would be a month, 25 people would be a week, right? 5 people a day. Now, I could talk to 5 people a day, right? Or I could talk to 15 people in one day, and I can go door knocking 2 times a week. I could talk to 15 people one day. I could talk to 10 people another day.
Strawberry yogurt.
Right? I could go outdoor.
My favorite daughter.
Let me just mute that person. Okay. I could go out door knocking on the weekends as well, right? I could door knock 25 homes on a weekend. I knew an agent who door knocked 100 homes a weekend on the Sunset Strip, and they made, and that's all they did, by the way, and they made like 600,000-700,000 a year just from door knocking the Sunset Strip, right? So we've gone through the scripts. We've gone through our numbers. Hold on one second. I want to get to action plan. Okay, actions for opportunity. So you guys should be looking at how many people a week are you adding into your database? If you guys are going to go door knocking consistently, let's say you door knock 20 people a week. So for every 10 people you talk to, you should add 2 into your database. That's a good rule of thumb. So for 1 for every 5 people. So every 5 people I talk to, I'm going to add 1 person into my database. And I want you guys to understand. So door knocking, it's not about how many homes I've door knocked. It's about how many conversations I've had. So if I door knock 100 homes and I have 10 people that answered, I'm tracking the 10 people. That means I need to talk to 100 people to get 1 deal. It's actually less than that when you average it out and when you get really good at your conversations, right? Usually when you get really good at your conversations, for every 50 people in your database, in your farm, in your door knocking, you'll get 1 deal. So for every 50 people you'll talk to, you'll get 1 deal. Now, if I talk to 25 people a week, right, that means every 2 weeks, I'm going to get a deal. Now, in Los Angeles, a listing every 2 weeks is massive, right? I mean, let's just talk about if you were to door knock consistently for the next 90 days, because it takes 90 days to see the fruits of our labor. So you were to door knock consistently for the next 90 days, then we start to get into how many people do you need to door knock in order to get a listing. So if I talk to 25 people a week, that means I'm going to get 1 listing every single month. So 1 listing every single month in Los Angeles is worth what? Probably $300,000 a year. And it's just focusing on sellers, right? Which is what we should be focused on. We need to be really specific about our lead generation and where we focus our energy and attention. And we should always be focused on listings. Why? Because listings bring buyers to the table. We all know that. Listings always bring the buyers to the table. So when you're focused on listings, you'll get more buyers, and you'll also be able to leverage listings into more listings. So one of the things we want to start focusing on is how many people a week are you talking to? And it doesn't matter whether it's door knocking or calling or networking events. Have specificity in your numbers, right, guys? Be really specific about your intentions. You see, there's some stuff in the chat. Can you check out the chat, Manuel, please? Sorry, I'm just asking Manuel to check out the chat. So if we're talking to 25 people a week, right? That's 50 people every 2 weeks. That's 100 people a month. That's 1 listing every single month. How powerful for you guys? How powerful would 1 listing every single month be? And I shared this with my group of agents I'm coaching right now this morning, because actually door knocking is the class that we did this morning with my group of agents. And what I was sharing with them is when you know your numbers, right? When you understand your numbers and you know how many people you need to talk to in order to get the business you want to get, then the only thing that matters at that point is role-playing your conversations, getting better at your conversations. The better you get at the conversations, the more you increase your numbers, right? And the number one thing I see agents do the least of, which I encourage you do more of, is role play. Because if you're not role playing, then what are you doing? You're practicing on clients. And we are in Los Angeles. A listing could be worth $90,000, $100,000. Do you want to practice on somebody for a $100,000 potential deal? We need to role play our conversations. We need to get better and better at talking to people and be really specific about our intentions and how we do it. And when we do that, we will always succeed in real estate. Perfect. So I am now going to, well, we finished early. This is good. Let's open it up to some questions. Anybody have any questions, specific questions they want to ask about door knocking?
Yeah, I've got one. What is the procedure that you take whenever you're speaking about financing, specifically when it comes to working with sellers, like options that they could possibly have when it comes to seller financing and just being able to help negotiate different sorts of deals?
Yeah, you know, that's such a great question. And I'll share with you, like, one of the things that I'm focused on right now is, well, you got to look at the potentiality, right? So for a seller not to sell right now, there's probably something on the purchasing side preventing them from selling, right? And that's where you have to ask questions and dig deeper. But I'm going to engage in a buy down. I'm going to engage in arms, right? I'm going to engage in all of those. And yet I'm not going to engage in them over the phone or even at the door. I'm going to mention them so that I can get an appointment to sit down with them and discuss it, right? So if I'm talking to you and you're a potential seller and you say to me, hey, you know, we would sell right now, but we don't know, we don't want to purchase and pay, you know, have like a crazy interest rate. That's when I go right into, you know what, that's a great, I totally get your frustration, right? And there's options in that realm. Have you heard of a buy down? You know that a seller can actually literally buy down a point for a buyer on a rate, and there are arms out there and there's seller financing. And I see the best thing for us to do would be to get together in person to discuss this. And that's what you're going to do. Janine, you know, it's such a great question. I will tell you, Janine, I started my career by saying that. Janine asked a question, should you say you have a potential buyer even when you don't have one? And to me, the answer is no, I don't. I used to do that all the time, and now I don't have to do that because it doesn't feel comfortable to me. And it's harder to transition a conversation from, I have a buyer for your property, to, hey, do you want to list your property and sell your property, right? Then me coming to you, Janine, and going, I'm a listing specialist, man. That's what I do. I list property all day long, and I work with buyers too. And yet, you know, in order for you to get the most amount of money, would it be to sell to a particular buyer, or would it be to test the market? It's always going to be a test the market, right? You know why? Here's the script. Because one buyer is always going to determine the price they want to pay on your property, and all the buyers are going to determine market value. So would you rather work with one buyer who's going to determine the price they want to pay, or would you rather get market value? And that's why we're always going to get them to list their property. So yeah, you can do that. I don't have a problem with it. It's just a lot harder to do. Yes. So somebody asked, is there a turnover rate that if it's less than 5%, you don't want to go into any area less than 5% turnover ratio? I would look for 5% as a good standard and above. I mean, it used to be 10%, you know, now somewhere between 5 and 10. Okay, Nicole, I don't want you to go to jail. Please don't ever leave a flyer in somebody's mailbox. It's mail fraud. You can leave a flyer at someone's door all day long. Do not leave a flyer in somebody's mailbox. It's mail fraud, literally mail fraud. Like you have to leave it at their door. So yeah, I do think you should leave something at the door. I think the fact that listen, if you guys ask me, the number one way to take over a neighborhood, it's by door knocking, calling, and mailing, right? When you're doing all three of those things, it's quick, man. It happens fast when you take over a neighborhood. And if I leave something at your door, Nicole, I can potentially call you and go, hey, did you get that thing I left at your door? Did you get the flyer I left for you? Oh, no? Okay, great. Anyhow, while I have you on the phone, and then I go into my conversation, right? Listen, the goal is one thing I want you guys to hear. Real estate is a numbers game. Overall, it's a numbers game, right? And at the same time, we want to focus on the motivated, especially now more than ever, because even if you go door knocking and you're not focused on the motivated, you will end up working with people who take up so much of your time and you have nothing to show for it, which is why so many realtors are going to leave this industry, right? So one of the things we focus on is pre-qualifying people. You have to be willing to really pre-qualify potential sellers and buyers nowadays in order to maximize your results in the marketplace. Any other questions? By the way, these are fantastic questions. I love these questions.
Ophir, I had a question. It's Brandon.
Yeah. Hey, Brandon.
Hey, thanks for helping out today. This is great.
Thank you for inviting so many people.
Oh, yeah. I'm glad we had a great turnout. So, I'll just kind of repeat what I usually hear as Fidelity rep when we gauge the market and what's happening out there. A lot of it is, there's a lot of other agents door knocking, and I'm afraid to go in an area that might be already saturated. That's question one. And then question two is the inventory issue in their farms or markets. And, even if they were to find someone where they, I think to the ones I hear the most, at least.
I lost your last two sentences.
So that's it. Oh, and then low inventory or no inventory. So how can I help someone if they have nowhere to move?
Listen, I mean, is that's a condition, right? Is there low inventory right now? Yeah, absolutely. There's low inventory. Does that mean that somebody can't find the property that they want? I don't see how those two things equate, right? You should still be able to find the property that you want. You should still be
agree.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me give you, Brandon, that opens up something I want to say to everybody. Right. Something that I want you all to hear right now is the market has shifted, right? If you buy into this belief that because the market has gone down, your business has to go down, you're dead. You're dead in the water, guys. This is the land. I paint this as a land of opportunity for you guys to go out there and build massive businesses. 1000%. This is the land of opportunity for you guys. And it's about having simple, powerful conversations. And yeah, I mean, is there a condition that there's less inventory? Absolutely there is. It doesn't mean somebody can't find the property that they're looking for, right? Does the fact that there's less inventory out there mean you have to do less business? That's what I hear from realtors all day long, right? Like, this is the land where you guys should be capturing market share. And what people are looking for right now, Brandon, goes to what you said. What people are looking for right now is somebody to hold their hand. They want somebody to take control. And most realtors won't do that. And that's why people walk all over them. And so we teach people here at Real Momentum to be professionals versus amateurs. And when you treat yourself as a professional, other people treat you as a professional. And so, yeah, is there less inventory out there? That doesn't mean it should prevent somebody from looking, right?
Or maybe that's just an objection that you can counter by saying.
Yeah, I didn't hear what the last thing that you said.
That can turn into a listing presentation.
Yeah, well, listen, I mean, you're talking about if you're saying that there's less inventory for somebody to purchase right now, but they're thinking about selling too, then
right.
By the way, this is the hilarity of it, Brandon. How many people I've dealt with so many sellers who are like, I want to sell my property right now for the most amount of money, and then I want to go and steal a property.
Right.
Right. It's like, yeah, you get on one end, you're going to get the most amount of money for the sale because there's low inventory. And then on the other end, you might have to, negotiate a little bit more, and you might have to pay a little bit more versus, other properties in the marketplace if you're going after a good piece of inventory. And at the same time, there's all these different options with ARMs, with buy downs, with refining down the road, right? Depending on what the scenario is. See, I think the most important thing that we don't find out is what's the client's motivation. And when we focus on asking questions and digging deeper, that's when we really get into knowing the motivation, knowing what's driving people, and being able to support them. Cool.
Someone was asking, I thought you were to get people on the phone after the initial meeting.
Oh yeah, by the way, we teach here, you don't leave a meeting without setting another meeting. That's the number one way to not have to chase after people, so to speak, is you set up another meeting. And even if I can't set a meeting, I'm going to say, hey, is this a good time to reach you tomorrow? Okay, I'm going to call you back at the same time tomorrow, just to set expectations. But ultimately, we want to go for meetings, right? We want to go for, hey, I'm going to call you back tomorrow at this specific time. And if it's a listing, I'll send them a calendar invite. If it's an appointment, I'll send them a calendar invite. Even if it's an appointment to follow up, I'll send them a calendar invite. So yeah, don't leave a meeting without setting the next meeting. That's the best trick. All right, everybody, thank you all for being here. By the way, if there's any other questions, I'm happy to answer them. Any other questions? Perfect.
Hi.
Ophir?
Yeah.
Yes, it's Gene Bush. I have a question.
Hey, Gene.
Yeah, I looked in the chat. So what do you do when you door knock with someone, you get their information, and then when you try to call them, it goes right to voicemail, you text them, then it goes back to voicemail again. What do you do in that case where you just can't get a hold of them? Like sometimes I'll door knock them again, but then there's that fine line, but you don't want to be stalking them. What do you do in that case?
Well, I mean, first of all, Gene, it's a great question. One thing I want to share with you guys is I always have a reason to call somebody back, right? There's always some piece of information that you can garner from real estate. There's always something that you can specifically focus on. Oh, I got this piece of information I want to share with you about what's going on in the market, right? To get them excited about reaching out to you. And at the same time, Gene, I would go back to that very specific, like if you're building rapport with people and you have a appointment and potentiality, set an appointment with them. Don't just intend to follow up with them. Put it in a calendar invite. That's the easiest way to get them to agree to meet with you again. And yeah, I mean, look, there's some that you have to go back to the door. Some you might text, and if they disappear, they disappear. You're not going to, that's why we talk about it being a numbers game at some point, right? There is still a potentiality of a numbers game. And the number one way to avoid that is never leave an appointment without setting another appointment.
I think it's a great idea. That's what I'm going to definitely employ. Never leave an appointment without setting another appointment. That I will put to the bank. Okay.
That will maximize your returns for sure.
Great. Thank you so much for that.
My pleasure.
Hi. I have
Ophir,
a
there's
question.
another question. Oh, go ahead. Whoever that
Sorry.
was.
Hi, it's Pam.
Hey.
Hi. So I door knock a lot. It's also
Yeah.
great exercise. But
Yes.
the one thing, what do you feel about having people's names? I walk out with a title cheat sheet of homeowners, and I can kind of tell how long they've lived there. And lately I've been doing the, hi, Bob, and it kind of catches people off guard, but my name is Pam. I'm with Compass. Have some information for you, whatever. I just start talking. Are you pro or anti name?
It's so funny. On the phone, pro, right? You got to do it on the phone. So if you're calling a farm, hey, I'm looking for John. I'm looking for Pam. And at the door, no, because it's part of the rapport building. See, you guys have to, yeah, one of the things you guys want to realize, we talked about this earlier of like, you got to go in there with the expectation. We all have a natural resistance to a salesperson. Have you ever been at a store, right? You walk in and the salesperson comes up and is like, can I help you? And your first response, no, I'm just looking, and they could help you probably, but it's our natural resistance to salespeople, right? So, so yeah, actually, Pam, I think engaging and getting their name and info is really powerful because it adds to the rapport building.
Perfect.
Awesome. Any other
have-
questions? Yeah.
Yes, I have a question. My question is I believe someone asked this earlier, is if you're in an area where there are a lot of agents that are door knocking in that area, how do you combat the, I guess, the fatigue of potential sellers? Like, here's another one who's knocked on my door. I just had one just leave. How do you deal with that?
You know, Michelle, I was literally engaging in a conversation with the agents in my training an hour ago about this, right? And a couple of things I want to share. You know, a lot of times people try to put baggage on us. They try to put their own baggage on us. So it's like, oh, I've had five of you agents bother me today, right? And, you know, to me, it's like, I wouldn't attach to anything that anybody's saying, because as long as you become a master of your conversations, you'll always get the listings. And there's a lot of people who are going to start door knocking, stop door knocking. There's a lot of people who are going to go into an area and not say the right things. You know, none of that concerns me. And by the way, actually, Michelle, I'm going to tell you a secret, right? Like, that's what's going to end up happening. And I never engage in that negative speak, right? So like, if I'm calling you, if I'm door knocking you and you're like, ah, you're the fifth agent that came by today, I'm going to be like, wow, there were 5 agents that came by today. Hey, Michelle, how long have you lived at this address? You notice how I just repeated and affirmed what you said and moved on from it and never even engaged in it?
Great, I love it.
That's what you do. Guys, there is so much power in not engaging with clients in those conversations. I never engage in that. That's why I always go into the rapport building questions. I always I repeat and affirm so they felt heard. So I don't just negate it. I repeat and affirm it, and then I move on. Great question, Michelle. Wonderful question. Anybody else?
There was a question on partnering up with another agent or not. Is that recommended?
You know, it's a great question. You know, part of listen, collaboration is great and accountability is more important than anything, right? So if you're finding that you're not accountable, by the way, self-accountability is the hardest thing in the world. I always had a coach my entire real estate career. It's why I quickly got into real estate transactions, because I had a coach the whole time. So yeah, you should have an accountability partner. If you're not going to door knock on your own, then door knock with somebody else. And by the way, there's ways of doing it. You can door knock one side, they could door knock the other. You guys could share, you could each do your own. So there's all different ways of setting it up. But the answer to your question is whatever's going to get you out there door knocking regularly is what you want to do. And if you're going to do it without somebody else, then you don't need a partner. And if you're not, then you do need a partner.
Good point.
Yeah, that's really what it comes down to.
Have you been hearing anything about like the type of marketing material that might be working best at the door, even if you're not there? Is it a handwritten note? Is it like a brochure, a newsletter?
You know, look, to me, the results are always going to come from the personal interaction and not from marketing pieces or anything like that. That just adds to it. But like I said, the ones that I find to be the most powerful are the price per square foot calculations. Because when you can calculate it out into price per square foot for a neighborhood, that's when people are going to calculate how much their property is worth. So yeah, but one thing that I want you guys to hear this. Your job is to stay in communication with people. And as realtors, we're often taught how to try to get people to reach out to us, which is not proactive. It's not very successful. And the agents that are out there focusing on reaching out to people and building rapport know that it's a numbers game and will always have consistent business. Yeah, price per square foot, Janine. I would put price per square foot. So like if you're doing, specific neighborhood, like you want to talk about what's the price per square foot going in that neighborhood right now? Perfect. Any other questions? Nope. Wonderful. Listen, guys, thank you all for showing up and for being here today. We will make sure to send out the email with the scripts for door knocking and the video from this presentation, so you guys can all watch it and check it out and share with anybody you know. Oh, if you're interested, guys, I tried not to make this about the training program. I want to make it about bringing value. If you're interested, check out realmomentum.com. You'll see a list of the trainings. So we do 90 days immersive training, right, for $1,500 total. So check out realmomentum.com. If you have any questions or you have any concerns or thoughts, you guys can reach out to us through there directly. Thank you all.
Thank you, Ophir.
Thank you guys all for
Very
being
good
here.
stuff.
And I
Thank
will-
you, Ophir.
Oh, by the way, we'll do an open house class in the next few weeks.
Great.
Perfect. Thanks, everybody.
All right. We'll look forward to your
Thank
email.
you.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
now.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Is my